Yeah, can you please click on
lead setting software applications. Hi, Kupu.
Hey, Chaitali. Hi, team. Good morning, good evening, guys. Thanks for
Great.
joining.
So with that, I'll give you the introduction of our second speaker, who is Venkatesh Shanbag. Venkatesh has an overall experience of 14 years that includes 11 years in transformation and automation in finance and accounting, healthcare, insurance, and supply chain management. He's certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, who began his automation journey 5 years ago. He currently supports multiple roles, that is BA, Pursuit Solution Lead, Delivery Lead, and Advisory Consultant. Hello, Venkatesh.
Hi, Chaitali. Hello, everyone. Good to be
Great. Warm welcome to both of you. So before we start the session, let us start with one quick Menti question. And the very first question, and I think it is very obvious, we would like to understand what are the current trends seen in automation. So for that, I would request everyone to pick up our mobile phones and log into menti.com with the given code. So let me also do that. Just to repeat, the question is, what are the current trends seen in automation? You can type in whatever comes into your mind, but yes, we are looking for the current trends, the upcoming trends in the market. Okay, we have started getting responses.
Yeah, I take refresh.
Check refresh.
ML, legacy, ROI.
Okay, Venkatesh, you don't mind if I also enter it?
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, I see IOPS. See hyperautomation, RPA. Okay.
Okay, so AI. Well, that is a buzzword.
Yep.
We also see hyperautomation.
AI,
Okay.
AIOps. ML, yeah.
AI,
Yeah, I think it's...
Yes. So yeah, I think this leads to the three main interesting topics that our speakers will be covering today. AI ops, hyperautomation, and task mining. With that, Venkatesh, this is very basic question. What is hyperautomation? Exactly what we mean by hyperautomation.
Sure. So, Saiz, if I could have the first slide. Yeah. So, hyperautomation is a word coined by Gartner, late 2019. It is an approach to solve business process problems with automation. What this advises or what this advocates is the focus should be on automating the end-to-end of a business process, right? It advocates us to be technology agnostic, use any and all technology that is applicable in that business process, right? A simple example would be, let's say I have to enter data from a document, and after that make some decisions based on some business rules and process that information. So for getting data from the document, I would need one technology. For arriving at a business decision using business rules, I would need another technology. And for finally capturing that data into an application, right? I would need a third technology. So the traditional RPA talks about only the last part, executing of that information in the application, right? Just entering that. It does not typically talk about the first two parts. And the way we evaluate automation opportunities and use cases is also very different, right? We leave the non RPA parts as exceptions that should be handled manually. But hyper automation actually tells us, okay, look at what are the different logics in the process. What are the different needs of the process? Is there intelligence needed? Is there some sort of a decision to be arrived at based on either business rules or past data, right? So if you look at all these necessities, each necessity points to a different technology. If I say decision based on past data, our mind is automatically directed towards analytics, right? If I say a decision based on rules, so it could be a decision modeler or a decision or a rule engine, right? uh, if I talk about extracting information from a document, you automatically start thinking about an OCR technology, right? So all these can and should be used to automate an end-to-end business process, right? And this is what uh, hyper automation talks about. It is an approach. Not uh, it is not a formal methodology per se, like an agile, or which have like a strict, an approach or a sequence, a logical sequence to it, right? But automation is more of an approach which underlines the importance of end-to-end process automation. Short of creating a customized application for the process, it tells us to use any and all available technology.
But then how is it different from intelligent process automation?
Good you asked that question, right? So Gartner spoke about hyperautomation in 2019. We in Capgemini have been talking about it much sooner. We used to call it five senses of automation or five senses of intelligent automation, right? Uh, and it is to keep, I mean, the short answer is there is no difference between intelligent automation and hyperautomation, right? Both the approaches are the exact same, right? When we spoke about five senses 2-3 years back, the way we approached it was, we said, okay, every process has one or more of the five senses, right? And these five senses are, um, you need to act, you need to think, you need to remember, you need to monitor, and you need to interact, right? So for each of these senses, we had lined up all the available technology. So all the available technology that we had in our suite was actually aligned to one or more of these senses. Like interact, automatically we think about chatbots, right? Act, executing a task, acting on something, that was automatically an RPA thing. So monitor, so all your BPMS, workflow management systems, your dashboard and reporting systems, all these come under the monitor sense, right? And analyze, automatically towards AI ML analytics, right? And remember, this would be our knowledge bases, our knowledge management systems. So we actually have formalized this approach much sooner than anybody else in the market, right? So the short answer is there is no difference. It is the same thing. Gartner says it differently, and we have interpreted it differently.
Now, because you said about AI ML, can we say that hyper automation means using AI ML along with RPA? In fact,
Well,
rather than asking you this question,
let's ask
let me
that to
ask this question. Yeah.
right.
So again, can we have the code, or will it be same? Thesis. Okay, the code remains same. So the question is, hyper automation, does that mean using AI ML along with RPA? The choices are yes and no. Okay, so we have got the answer as no. So I will also attempt this question. Okay, so maximum. Okay, most of the people feel that no, it's not. All right. So yeah, Venkatesh, over to you. As
Yeah.
an expert,
So
what is?
yeah. So you could actually interpret this question both ways, right? It's a yes as well as a no. Um, Hyper automation, is it using AI ML along with RPA? Short answer is, because when we talk about hyper automation, we say that okay, it doesn't matter what technology you use, right? It can be AI ML combined with something else, or it can be RPA combined with something else, right? So it is not necessary that every hyper automation use case will have AI or RPA components in it. That's the beauty of it,
Okay.
right? So is it only AI ML and RPA? No, it is not, right? But can it be AI ML with RPA? Can I call that hyper automation? Yes.
Okay. So you mean they go hand in hand?
Yes, they go hand in hand. So there is no, it is not specific to any technology or any tools there.
Okay. And in fact, that was my next question, whether it is specific to technology. So,
No, it's not. It's not. Reason is because the type of or the choice of technology depends upon what the process needs, or to put it another way, what are the senses involved in the process. So if there is a process where there is interaction involved, so obviously I would need some sort of a chat ops or a chat bot or a voice bot sort of a tool involved there, right, to handle the interaction piece. But if the process involves arriving at a decision, analyzing past data, arriving at a decision, and then executing loan approval, right? So for approving loans, there are multiple parameters where I need to collect data first, like the demographics, the financial information, the marital status, right? All these things. So the first step involves collecting all this data. Once I collect all this data, I already have a model which is pre-built, right? This is where my analytics piece comes in, right? This is where I enter the current data in the model, and the model, based on how I've built it, how I've trained it, that will throw me the output. Now, once I throw the output, the answer is either a clear yes, a clear approval of the loan, or a clear rejection of the loan, or a review, right? Based on how I have designed this model. But once I get this output, I need to act on it, right? If it is approved, then I need to process that loan application in the system. If it is rejected, I need to reject it with some sort of a formal process. Maybe there is a letter of explanation involved on why it was rejected, right? And if I have to pass it along for a manual review, I have to still initiate that workflow. So for this piece, I would still need an RPA. To executing the last piece of the process, right, I would need a prime mover. I would need something like an RPA to go ahead and execute this task in the system, in the application, right? So the concept of hyperautomation is technology agnostic. Like I said, right, it talks about using any and all existing technology to solve for that the business process, right?
okay.
And the goal is to automate it end to end.
Okay. So I think you have spoken about few of the use cases of hyperautomation here.
Yes.
Okay.
So
What
from
are yeah, so sorry, so what are more use cases that we can talk about when we are saying when we are specifically looking at hyper automation, Venkatesh?
Yeah, so any use case that you
Mhm.
look at for automation, any use case that you look at for automation is automatically a use case for hyper automation. You pick up any business process, it can be in the field of finance and accounting, it can be in the field of healthcare, pharmacy benefit management, it can be in insurance, banking, uh, any process where you look at it from an automation point of view, all those are automatically the candidates for hyper automation. Like I said, it's not different in terms of its uh, the opportunity. It is just a difference in the approach. In RPA, we just look at what are those rule-based tasks which can be automated, the rule-based, repetitive, low value, high volume transactions that can be automated. But hyper automation talks about, okay, even though it is not rule-based, is there a logic to arrive at a decision, right? Is it based on a set of rules? Like when I say the set of rules, there are cases where typical RPA cannot handle the number of rules. For example, we in Capgemini in the past have automated a VAT process, a VAT application process for a Brazilian client, and we actually built a rules engine, and we configured about more than 300 rules in it. Right? This was basically like, okay, what type of product is it? From which state to which state it is being, what is the state of origin, what is the state of destination where it is being transported, right? What is the tax rate in state A or state of origin? What is the tax rate in state B? Does this come under essential goods, right? Or does it have a flat tax rate, right? So there were about 300 rules just to arrive at what is the VAT percentage that I need to charge, right? So in such a situation, it is much better to take the help of a rules engine or a decision modeler rather than including all these decisions within the RPA, right? So this is where you could use the rule engine plus the RPA. The RPA would basically then process the outcome of the decision, but the decision would
Okay.
be arrived at using the rules engine, right?
Okay. Okay, got it. With this, I'll just take a pause, Venkatesh. I would like the audience to know that they can type in their questions in the Q&A panel. And towards the end of session, we can take the questions from the audience. Okay. So I guess we have covered the topic, hyperautomation, right, Venkatesh? Can we now
Yes,
move
yes.
to, yeah, okay, great. So can we move to the second topic, and which is also an interesting topic now, task mining. So same basic question. What is task mining, Venkatesh?
Yeah. So for the development of any automation solution, right? So one of the most initial steps is to basically complete the requirement gathering, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
basically to understand what is the process in scope, what is the process flow, how is it done, right? What is the input for it? What are the flow of steps, right? So typically the way this is done is a business analyst, right? Typically um, sits together with the SME and observes the SME performing the process, makes notes, comes back to his desk, starts preparing the as is process flow, either a pictorial or a Word document, uh, shares this with the SME. The SME then reviews it. Maybe it goes for corrections, maybe it goes for additions or other changes. And at the end state, the as is process document is approved, right? Something that we call as a PDD, a process uh, design document, or sorry, a process definition document, or a BRD. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
the challenge with this, or rather the disadvantages with this approach is, one is the entire document depends on the expertise of the SME, right? I mean, if the SME knows 40% of the process, then 40% is what gets captured in the document, right? Second thing is, um, during the requirement gathering session, right? Now these are very time box sessions, typically like a couple of weeks to maybe a few weeks, right, per process. It also depends on what the SME remembers during this. So even though he might know how to handle multiple scenarios, he might not remember all these, he or she might not remember all these scenarios, right, during the requirement gathering session. So there is that leakage that is there, right? Third thing is tribal knowledge, right? These are like very specific handling instructions that the SME has for maybe certain clients, certain vendors, certain scenarios that are not a part of any document, right? In Capgemini, we call these as job aids, right? These are something which are in addition to your process document, right? But there are situations where these job aids are not even documented. Everything stays in the mind of the SME, right? Now these don't get captured typically,
Correct.
right? So because of all these things, all these gaps or all these disadvantages, now we have technology which can automate this piece, right? And this process of automating the process discovery, this is called as task mining, right? So you can either call it task mining or you can call it automated process discovery.
Okay, is it similar to process mining? I mean, what is the difference between task mining and process mining?
Yeah, so process mining is slightly older in its inception. I mean, in the sense process mining came before task mining. So what process mining does is it takes transactional life cycle data, right? A simple example. Let's say this is the process for submitting timesheets, right? Now what happens is the way the process starts is let's say I have to submit my timesheet and Kupu is my N+1. So I go to the time card application. I pick the date, end of week date, for which I have to submit the time card. Once I click on that, it opens up the time card page. I enter my project codes. I select the task, the specific tasks that need to be selected, and I fill in the time for each day of the week. If there are multiple projects or leaves or holidays, I fill multiple codes. And in the end, I either click save and then click submit, or I directly click submit. Once I do this, there is a timestamp generated in the time card system. So it generates a time card ID for that particular time card, and there is a timestamp generated. Now we don't view this, we are not able to view the timestamp, but by default, this timestamp is captured at the backend, right? Now this is called a transaction lifecycle. Now once I do this, once it is submitted, then it goes into Kupu's queue. So after a couple of days, Kupu opens the time card and approves it, right? And then it's closed, or he rejects it, giving some comment, which then it sends it back to my queue. Then I review the comments, I make some changes, I resubmit it, right? An adjustment submission, and then he approves it, right? So if you look at this, there are a lot of steps involved in between. Opening the screen, filling the code, entering the time, then clicking submit, or entering multiple codes and then splitting the time and entering it. But from a transaction lifecycle perspective, right, there are just a few things which are captured. One is the date and time on which the time card was created and submitted, the date when it was approved, the date and time when it was approved or rejected, the date on which the employee adjustment was submitted, and the date on which the adjustment was approved. So there are just these 2, 3, or 4 paths, right? Now process mining will just give you the dates of the end results, the end output, date on which the time card was submitted, date on which it was approved or rejected, right? So you'll have for this timesheet ID, I'll have just two data points or two timestamps. Step 1 on day 1, step 2 on day 3. This is process mining. Okay. So imagine this, if we go back to our time card database and we pick a sample of 5 years and employees uh, across India, probably more than 150,000 timesheets, employees submitting time cards for the past 5 years, right? Um, uh, and this is like including people who have joined recently within the last 5 years, people who have left us within the last 5 years. So we'll have millions of time card data, right? And we'll have millions of timestamps captured, right? Now, if I start mapping the process using each of these, right, and I
Mhm.
overlap all these on each other, I get a business process map, right? This is what
Mhm.
is done in process mining, right?
Okay.
Now, this is a simple process with just like 2, 3, or maximum 4 steps or 4 phases in it, right? But imagine a step where I have to buy something or purchase something for my team. I initiate a request, which is then converted into a PO. Then the PO is shared with the vendor delivers, the invoice is paid, right? Submitted and then paid. So there might be like these different paths, right? And each transaction might take a different path, right? Some Most of it might go through what we call the happy path, right? The ideal process, but there might be a lot of deviations in between, right? There might be POs, there might be purchases where we have not got the approval for the PO, but then we go and take an exception approval. So that might follow a different path, right? So what process mining does is it aggregates all the data which is in the sample and it builds like an overlapping process map, one on top of the other. And after it is through the entire population, you get one solid business process map with all the deviations your transactions have encountered, right? So what we assume is like a happy path process might turn out to be a process with like 100 plus deviations in it. This is
Venkatesh,
process map.
Tatli, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but Tatli, can you refresh your Chrome browser? Then I am getting your camera feed again.
Yeah, I did that, Thais, but somehow it's not working.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
let me
yes.
just. Yeah, now if you take the same example of process mining that we spoke about, right? The time card submission, right? While process mining gives me just those 2 or 3 different processes, which is like, okay, day 1 time card submitted, day 2 or day 3 time card approved or rejected, right? And so on and so forth. What task
Mhm.
mining does, it actually fills in the white space, right? So what task mining does is it actually captures how did I submit my time card. I logged in
Mhm.
to talent portal. From there, I clicked on the time card link. I went into the time card portal. I went into my time card tab. Then it took me to the date. I clicked on the date. It opened up the time card page. Those multiple fields where I entered all the data, and then I clicked submit. Right? It captures all that information, screen by screen, click by click. And
Okay.
based on that,
Mhm.
recording, it generates a process document, right?
Okay.
This is what task mining is, and this is how it is used, right? The simplest
Okay.
example of task mining earlier is um, you had this right about 15, at least 15 years back. We had it's still there, but the first I've encountered that is about 15 years back. There's a tool called Epiplex.
Mhm.
So this tool was actually used to create training documents, right? And it used the same principle. You switched on Epiplex, you recorded your process, and based on the recording, it generated the process document,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Inter-
Yeah, but this is what task mining essentially is. It is basically
so, mhm.
automating your process discovery.
Okay. So, what are the different vendors who offer task mining products, Venkatesh?
Today there are multiple. So the first preference we would rather
Mhm.
give is to automation vendors themselves, right? Like UiPath,
Mhm.
Automation Anywhere, Microsoft. The reason is that the tools that they have. So for
Mhm.
UiPath, it's called task mining. Automation Anywhere calls it discovery bot. Microsoft calls it process advisor, right? So these are all tools that they have within their toolkit. The advantage with using task mining from an RPA vendor is A, it gives you the process document.
Mhm.
B, it also gives like a skeleton bot code for just so you don't have to start your bot development from zero,
Okay. Okay.
right? You don't have to start from zero. So based on all the clicks in the document, based on all the screens that
Mhm.
you have navigated through, right? There is already a skeleton code which is created,
Okay.
right?
So,
So
mhm.
yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
first preference. But it is not that only these vendors have task mining. You also have Celonis, you also have Abby, who offer, and there's another vendor called I think it's in Invigio, if I'm not wrong. So there are a lot of vendors who give task mining tools, but
Yeah. So these are the same vendors who also offer the RPA.
correct. So some of them. So Celonis is more famous for its process mining offering. Task mining is something which they have integrated or introduced recently.
Uh-huh.
Abby is also more known for its document capture solution, right? Yeah, but I think they're venturing out into different field, different opportunities now.
Okay. I think with this we have got quite a good understanding on what task mining is, and probably with that I can take up the next Menti question, where we can use task mining, right? So, can we have the slide in the code again? The question in the code again? Yes. So this is for audience. Where can we use task mining? And I think, yeah, this is word cluster. So let us see. So I don't think it is industry specific, right, Venkatesh? It could be used in any industry.
It's actually not. Uh, the focus is on the process, irrespective of which industry you talk about, as long as that process is carried on a computer.
Okay. So we have a few responses. One is retail. The other one is
Office
office.
processes.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. That's
yeah,
interesting. Okay. We got one more response. Anything you do more or less. Okay. More than once. Okay. So this is very a nice response. I mean, it can be used anywhere. Wow. Okay. So good. Retail, we have got two responses for retail. Again, I think it is not industry specific, Venkatesh, as you said.
it's not. It's not. And I actually kind of like that answer of anything you do more than once, because I think that underlines the logic for the automation, right? If you do something only once, then I'm not sure how do we build a cost-effective solution to it. But there has to be repetition for us to even automate, thinking of automating something, right? So yeah, so that's a nice way to put it.
Right.
But a short answer
Or,
is
mhm.
it can be used anywhere,
Good. Great.
but in the
Cool.
requirement. in the requirement gathering phase.
Okay. So what exactly you mean by requirement gathering phase now, Venkatesh?
Yeah, so whenever you talk about building a solution, it can be
Mm-hmm.
building a customized application, or it can be implementing an existing technology, based on current business process. The first step is requirement gathering, right? And this is where task mining is used.
All right. Okay, cool. So I think with this, we have reached the last topic of the day, that is AI Ops. And Kuku, we would request you to present the topic. Again, we'll start with the same question. What is AI Ops, Kuku?
Okay, Chaitali, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to take a quick introduction about the AI apps. So what do you mean by AI apps? So we are talking about a lot of applications that's being developed in the ecosystem, right? So until we do have a solid infrastructure built to host all these applications, so it is a single point of failure, right? So there are multiple definitions of AI apps in the round. So to just give a one-liner about AI ops, so which is basically the application of your business analytics on the IT operations data, so which can be used for data mining, so where you can get the actionable insights for better decision making. And another simple one-liner is anything on the IT operation that use machine learning. So they call it as AI ops. So as per the recent definition from Gartner, so it's part of the multi-layer technology platform. So that uses special learning, big data to detect and automate some of the IT operations target achievements. So which can prevent potential long-term outages. So that you can retain your customers, and then your service can be restored, and you are maintaining your business continuity plans, right? So those are the different areas of the definition of the AI ops. So the one which we talked about, so basically it uses different flavors of big data technologies and machine learning algorithm, whether it is supervised algorithm, whether it is unsupervised algorithm. So basically it uses two flavors of technology stacks, which is on the big data technologies and machine learning. So why big data technology is very important in the sense, because assuming that you have heterogeneous applications and you have APIs, you have databases, and on top of it, you have a huge network of infrastructure, tools, mechanism, process, and procedures that is available on your ecosystem. And the another big areas where we do see a lot of data which is being generated from is the IoT, so Internet of Things applications. So you do see a different set of kind of data available for us to get the actual insight. So and as why the big data existence in this area, because the variety, the velocity and veracity and the volume of data that you are going to see out of these applications, it is going to be a huge, and it's a tsunami of data. And even if we are talking about petabytes of data which is available, and it is being generated by this application. So ideally, so it is humanly not possible to mine all this information to get some insights, right? And that's where the business algorithms using the big data to handle your structured data, which is one type of the data that you do see from these applications. Another type of data is semi-structured. And the third one is the raw data, which is unstructured data. So there are mechanisms within big data ecosystem where you can use these tools and technologies to mine this information generated out of this application, these three different types of data, to get some actionable insights for better decision making. So that's where big data comes into the picture. And coming to the machine learning, so basically you are talking about the machine learning to identify some pattern detection, and then clustering all the related issues on top of it to generalize your service downtime is less as much as possible so that you can maintain your business continuity whenever it is required. Assuming, so I can give the classic example of system or application where take example of NASDAQ. So we're doing our day trading. If something happens to their infrastructure, so everything stops because you do see the large financial impact if the system is not available. So that's where AIOps comes into picture, very handy, and using tools and mechanism to making sure that your applications are up and running 100% always available for the customers, and your whatever the runtime or whatever the downtime that you have on your system for as part of the periodic maintenance, so we can keep as much as less possible time frame so that the impact can be reduced to the greater extent. And another big advantage of using big data and machine learning is, so you have a internal mechanism within a big data system where you ingest all the data to the AI platform, since it's a multi-layered platform using big data and machine learning. So first you get all the data, so which is basically for the different types of data that you will expect from any application or APIs or database or IoTs. So which is basically events, metrics, logs, and alerts, right? So these are the information that we already being generated. There are petabytes of data. It's being generated from different applications, so that you need to ingest into this platform using big data technologies, so which is available. And you come to the stage where you have to pass this information to understand some kind of alerts. Okay, I want to run this application. What is my allowed kind of alerts from this application? Whenever there is a threshold limit reaches to the certain point, for example, my CPU time or my network usage, my performance of this particular application is goes below certain percentage. So I need to get the alerted to the site reliability engineer to have a look. So that will prevent some kind of your fault analysis and then trying to understand the issue better, so that you will be ready to get this application up and running as soon as it was down, right, for some extent. So it is basically helping you to understand your faster root cause analysis if something happens, and machine learning helps you to gather all this information from the logs, alerts, and whatever is generated from this different applications to recommend you some sort of solutioning to that particular issue, so that you have all the details in your hand. So the typical example, you have the logs and you do take some time to understand the issues that will add up another 1 hour of downtime. So you are impacting the whole lot of business continuity plan in your organization, right? So instead of that, if you put AOps in your plate, the overall architecture as an ecosystem, and as soon as there is an issue which is happening on the any of this application at the application level or at the database level or at the machine level. So you have tools and mechanism available with you to understand the issue quickly and take a judgmental, or so your time to act on this particular situation is very fast, so that you don't impact much on the availability of the applications or overall systems, right? So that is the high level information about AAR. So coming to the general stages
So
of the
with that, So
go ahead.
Kuku, one question. Can we have spoken so much about data, unstructured data, structured data? Can we consider that as driving factor for adoption of AIOps, or if not, then what are the driving factors for
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the adoption of the AIOps, because you are looking at the data in petabytes, which is humanly not possible to mine and take a decision, right? So that's why you need some kind of algorithm to pass that information, so which can be give some great insights and take a better decision making capabilities to you to understand the data. But so far, I mean, whatever the data which is available, and so only 20% you can get something else. So the machine learning and big data is helping to understand this data better, so that you can better inform and the potential failures or bottlenecks and any capacity planning and the root cause analysis and any proactive management in terms of application or capacity planning. So all this information give greater details. If you have more data and you have a mechanism to understand the data, what is coming to you to get a better decision making. So definitely this is one of the area where AIOps is required. And the current scenario, the other areas where you have a typical infrastructure support where you do have a manual effort, right? And so which was working fine until you have very limited capacity and the data. But the kind of data now we are having from a dynamic and elastic environment, so it is not at all possible by human to get a quick decision out of this data which is being generated from multiple areas. So that's where we need to have the mechanism to help us out to get the greater insights so that we can predict what is coming to us in the future, and then we can act based on our historical information available with us on the similar situation. So the infrastructure is one of the factor, and the data is another factor where you are taking or implementing AIOps in your organization. Another major important aspect is your IT needs, right? So something happens in your application, so all the application is down, and basically you are losing your customers, and the cost of that particular server down or outage is very high, right? You need to get the application as soon as possible in order to meet your SLA as defined by the organization, as well as your overall as part of the business continuity plan. So I think you guys might have heard about high availability applications, right? So which is basically the architecture which is hosting all these applications where you want to have these mission critical applications running all the time 24/7, so which is always 99.9% of availability any part of the day, any part of the year, right? So that is where it is coming into the picture, where you need to have a system which is always available without any outage period. So because in the NASDAQ or any airline situation where flights, for during flights, so they are sending a lot of machine readable data to the head offices, right? If something happens, if something is down, either from the flight recorder or from the at the control station, so you don't have any information for you to guide them, right? So these are the mission critical applications where the application should be always running up and available for the users 99.9% of the time. The 0.1% is basically it's 30 minutes of outage per year is the allowed limit, right? In the Applex application where you do see the applications always available, so you don't realize that there is outage in the application. So that is where the lot of important critical factors why we need to have the AIOps. When you have a huge infrastructure things and APIs, databases that you see, and especially in the bigger organization where the capacity is beyond the imagination, then obviously you need to have the AIOps, because if something goes wrong on the infrastructure side, everything's down, right? So you are losing your customers, your retention of the customer base is going to be impacted, and overall that any outage or server down is costly. And then you need to have a very proactive management, especially when you have your applications and databases on the cloud infrastructure, so which is very important in terms of addressing your business continuity as well as your SLAs.
Okay, with that, I would like to ask one question. Probably we can take it up as a Menti question and then we can discuss again. So which are the popular tools used for AIOps?
Okay,
so just for the audience, can we quickly take a poll here and try to understand from the audience what are the tools, popular tools used for AIOps? And with that, I also would like to attempt. Service now, okay. Okay, so we've got one response now. I think this is the most popular response.
Yeah, exactly. So But this is more on the usage side of it, right? So people are started using ServiceNow more than
Okay, so
any
probably this
other
is an
tools.
upcoming trend. Yeah, upcoming trend, and we are getting familiarized with this trend. So yeah, Kupu, what are the other tools, or are these the only tools for AIOps?
Yeah, I would see ServiceNow and Python some extent, which is part of the data analytics under big data ecosystem. And ServiceNow is part of the IT service management along with BMC Remedy. And we also have for application process monitoring. So whether application health checkup is monitored by some of the tool. So in that family, so we have a Dynatrace and App Dynamics. And we also have a family from IT operations management, which is a very popular tool called Splunk, right? So there are other family of tools which is specifically designated for managing your network. So NetScout and other different, I mean, there are a lot of tools available, so which is very specific to network and your overall IT infrastructure management, even anything related to application related. So we have a set of tools. So to answer your question, so from IT service management side, we have ServiceNow and BMC Remedy, and application process monitor side, we have Dynatrace, Dynamics, and SolarWinds. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kupu. And we have 3 minutes to go, so I will open the forum for question and answer. So
Sure.
probably we can take a couple of questions from the audience.
Okay.
So I do have few questions though. Can we use the task mining, hyper automation, and AI ops together, or can there be a handshake between these two areas? Kupu, Venkatesh.
Yeah, yes. So we can combine all these areas, task prep, which is a very first pre-requirement before you start your development, right? So where we can use the task mining, then apply your AI and ML related capabilities to make a better decision and use your AI ops to maintain at the infrastructure level, again, which is using AI and ML and some extent of data mining methodologies, right? So the answer is yes, we can combine all these in a single stream.
Yeah,
But
and yeah, just to add to that, Kupu, if you see AI ops is a particular use case for hyper automation. You know, when you are talking about AI ops, you're talking about application monitoring systems, big data, right? Multiple technologies involved, right? The ITSM tools is nothing but like a monitoring or a workflow tool, right? So these different technologies come together for one single solution, right? With the goal of automating the end-to-end application monitoring and sort of self-healing thing. So yeah, AI ops is like, in short, it is a use case for hyper automation. So in that sense, yeah, they're all linked.
Great, thank you. It was really very insightful session, Kupu and Venkatesh. And I would really like to thank you for joining us and speaking about the automation refresh and all the upcoming trends. So I think with that, we would end the session, and thanks everyone for joining the session.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.